Hello, welcome to FootPrint. My name is Samuel Atamensa. This is going to be another interesting edition of the program. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll be zooming in to our man for the moment.
In our previous episode, former Foreign Affairs Minister Hackman Owusu-Agyeman spoke about his time in the university and some brutalities meted out to him in the Nkrumah government. Mr. Hackman Owusu-Agyeman also spoke about his career with the United Nations.
At that time, Justice Kluge was president of NUGS. And he was from Legon. He was reading law at Legon. So the secretariat had to come to Tech.
Yeah.
And Mr. Ismon, the one that I referred to, was then, me and him were competing for the Secretary Generalship of NUGS. And he was 5 years ahead of me in Snoggersons. And I thought it was a bit out of the ordinary for a little boy who was now to go and challenge him. But my group were supporting me, like Honorable Safumafu and all those. He was about 2 years behind me. All of them were pushing me, we would take over. Anyway, so we went voting, secret voting. In all sincerity, I said, I can't vote for myself. So I voted for Ismon. And Ismon won the election by 1 vote. That was my vote. So then I was made Assistant Secretary General. And whilst at that time, Nkrumah then was becoming more and more dictatorial. He wanted to be live president. There was only going to be one party. All parties were proscribed and all these things. So we, the students, got up and said, no, this is not right. And then they started arresting us. So they arrested Kluge by Preventive Detention Act. I'm sure you know about it, Preventive Detention. They took Kluge, they took Ismon, they took Amisa, and they took them away. So then we were left there, and I then took over as General Secretary of NUGS. And in the night, we would drive from Kumasi to Cape Coast. At that time, Cape Coast was a university college, an affiliate of Legon, or come to Legon. So we had quite a bit of these things done. And so eventually, they issued a Preventive Detention Act order against me to be arrested and sent to Nsawam. And of course, I ran off and I was sleeping in the farm. That means I was doing agriculture, so I sleep in the farm or changing my sleep every day. And so when eventually I was arrested, I was taken. So they arrested. Eventually they got me after about 4 days.
Oh, okay.
They were trying to chase her. Then my friend Triniboy and all of them were hiding me all over the place. And
tell me, so how did they catch you finally?
Sorry?
How did they catch you?
Oh, I came. I think I was hungry, and I came. I was told everything was over. Then we got there. They arrested. They took me to Ahija police station. And RP Bafu, bless his soul,
was the vice chancellor.
Very close friend of Nkrumah. So apparently he had gone to tell Nkrumah, and really said, leave the students to really express themselves, and that's how democracy works, like that. And then, so when I was told that, he said, this is youthful impetuosity. I remember that very well. So instead of being put in the train to go to Nsawam, I was detained at Ahija place. And afterwards, he got me out. But the people who were sent to Nsawam, this is why some of us cannot really be very overly excited when we talk about Nkrumah. The students that were sent to Nsawam, according to them, people from Romania were the one doing it. They gave them injections and things like that. And he distorted them. When Ismon eventually came out, His neck was huge. And Kluge and all of them, they were being given all manner of injections. They claim, all these are reported speech. As they say in Akan,
Yeah.
And then, but when Eastmont, for example, was finally released after the intervention of Dr. R.P. Bafo, came with a big neck. What happened? Said, well, this is what was happening. We were tortured and this and that. And he was reading engineering. In engineering, were two types of engineering. You must know this. There was the engineering degree, that's what was half-math and the rest read, and there was the engineering diploma. The man was doing an engineering degree. When he came up, he couldn't no more, he couldn't pursue anything. His brain was something had happened to him.
Wow.
And so Bafo was very angry. So he said, okay, if you cannot do the degree, then go and do the diploma. And diploma were the people who had been in the technical colleges and came, and when he finished, got a diploma in engineering. You push him to that place, there too, and I can say it on authority, he couldn't follow up. He said his mind was always foggy and was confused. At that time, Justice Kluge was president of NUGS, and he was from Legon. He was reading law at Legon. So the secretariat had to come to Tech.
Yeah.
And Mr. Eastmont, the one that I referred to, was then, me and him were competing for the Secretary Generalship of NUGS. And he was 5 years ahead of me in Snoggersons. And I thought it was a bit out of the ordinary for a little boy who was there now to go and challenge him. But my group were supporting me, like Honorable Safumafu and all those. He was about 2 years behind me. All of them were pushing me, we would take over. Anyway, so we went voting, secret voting. In all sincerity, I said, I can't vote for myself. So I voted for Eastmont. And Eastmont won the election by 1 vote. That was my vote. So then I was made Assistant Secretary General. And whilst at that time, Nkrumah then was becoming more and more dictatorial. He wanted to be live president. There was only going to be one party. All parties were proscribed and all these things. So we, the students, got up and said, no, this is not right. And then they started arresting us. So they arrested Kluge by Preventive Detention Act. I'm sure you know about it, Preventive Detention. They took Kluge, they took Eastmont, they took Amisa, and they took them away. So then we were left there, and I then took over as General Secretary of NUGS. And in the night, we would drive from Kumasi to Cape Coast. At that time, Cape Coast was a university college, an affiliate of Legon, or come to Legon. So we had quite a bit of these things done. And so eventually, they issued a Preventive Detention Act order against me to be arrested and sent to Nsawam. And of course, I ran off and I was sleeping in the farm. That means I was doing agriculture, so I sleep in the farm or changing my sleep every day. And when eventually I was arrested, I was taken.
So they arrested
eventually
you?
They got me after about 4 days.
Oh, okay.
They were trying to chase me. Then my friend Triniboy and all of them were hiding me all over the place. And
tell me, so how did they catch you finally?
Sorry?
How did they catch you?
Oh, I came. I think I was hungry, and I came. I was told everything was over. Then we got there. They arrested. They took me to Ahija police station. And R.P. Bafo, bless his soul,
Was the vice chancellor?
Was the vice chancellor, very close friend of Nkrumah. So apparently he had gone to tell Nkrumah, and really said, leave the students to really express themselves, and that's how democracy works, like that. And then, so when I was told that, he said, This is youthful impetuosity.
Eesh.
I remember that very well. So instead of being put in the train to go to Nsawam, I was detained at Aija place. And afterwards, he got me out. But the people who were sent to Nsawam, this is why some of us cannot really be very overly excited when we talk about Nkrumah. The students that were sent to Nsawam, according to them, people from Romania were the one doing it. They gave them injections and things like that, and he distorted them. When Eastmon eventually came out, his neck was huge, and Kluje and all of them, they were being given all manner of injections. They claim, all these are reported speech. As they say in Akan,
Yeah.
And then, but when Eastmon, for example, was finally released after the intervention of Dr. R.P. Baffoon, came with a big neck. What happened? Said, well, this is what was happening. We were tortured and this and that. And he was reading engineering. In engineering, were two types of engineering. You must know this. There was the engineering degree, that's what was AFMAF and the rest read, and there was the engineering diploma. The man was doing an engineering degree. When he came up, he couldn't no more, he couldn't pursue anything. His brain was something had happened to him.
Wow.
And so Bafu was very angry. He said, okay, if you cannot do the degree, then go and do the diploma. And diploma were the people who had been in the technical colleges and came, and when he finished, got a diploma in engineering. They pushed him to that place, there too, and I can say it on authority, he couldn't follow up. He said his mind was always foggy and was confused.
We'll take a short break, and when we come back, it will be a continuation of our conversation with Honorable Hackman Owusu-Agyeman. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Footprint here. My name is Samuel Atamensa. So this is definitely the continuation of our earlier conversation we had with Honorable Hackman Owusu-Agyeman. If you missed the first part, you can go on YouTube, look for CityTube, and just look for the interview with Hackman Owusu-Agyeman. And I'm sure you can put the pieces together. So much to learn as a young man, a young woman growing up in Ghana. And all those who want to go into politics, you know you can do politics and not cause mayhem. Honorable.
Yes, sir.
Once again, we'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
So now we know how you started, from Efijasi through St. Augustine's, through UST, through all the schools that you had to attend in the Netherlands, in Y College, and the others. So now, you, after going through the phase with FAO, at which point did you decide that I have had enough? Let me go back to Ghana.
Well, as I said, I came back home, and Dr. Safodu, bless his soul, was
the same who used to be the Minister for
Agriculture. Yes, Dr. Safodu, then the man who allowed me to leave. We talked about it, and he said it was time to get together to get rid of the dictatorship of Rawlings.
Which year was this?
That was 1988. Then 89, we said we should try and put a group together. So we started the Dankwa-Busia Club.
But you had come back to Ghana then?
Well, I took a long leave.
Okay.
And then when I came, we started with the Dankwa-Busia Club. And all of us, Darocha, Jinim Boatin, Nakufuado, myself, Safmaf, and all. So,
at times I like to hear some of these, because at times you meet people who tell you, oh, we're part of this beginning of MPP, we're part of, I wouldn't know, because I was just a student.
In fact, that is, you are right, because...
So we like to know who was who.
I was the one who's in charge as national treasurer, recording each and every donation
for the Dankwa-Busia club.
For the Dankwa-Busia club too, I was. And then the Friday club, where we met also at Mr. Coleman Petu's house.
Mr. Who?
Coleman Petu.
Okay, never heard of him.
He was. And so we had this and went around establishing the Dankwa-Busia clubs in various regions and cities and things like that. There were very few of us, though. It was very difficult because at that time...
Can you just take us through some of the names that you remember when you started this whole Dankwa-Busia club?
Darocha.
BJ Darocha.
BJ Darocha. Ejedi
Mboatin, who later on became the General Secretary.
General Secretary, yeah. Odoi Sykes.
Odoi Sykes, yes.
Odoi Sykes. I.C. Quay.
Sheikh I.C.
Quay. Nana Akufo-Addo.
Nana Akufo-Addo, the president.
Myself, Hackman Owusu-Agyeman. Later on, were joined by but he came much before. So at that time, he was working for NIB. But South Mafu joined later. South Mafu came later. And where else can I remember? Amabusia. Amabusia. And
how about the Wayoseinis?
Wayoseni, as I was going to go to that. Amabusia, Wayoseni, Amakutufo. Some of these people, Adubuahi, of course.
Yeah.
Apreku came to join us. Apreku. And quite a few of them.
All right. So these are some of the names that was Jake there. Was Jake Apreku, there at the time?
Then Kwamna Batels.
Okay.
Kwamna Batels was there, and who else? Aminu. And there's a young man. There was a young man from North we call him Business, but his name is really Amadou. Smallish young man, Business. And then there was the one who became the head of the youth wing and worked for what's the name again? Excuse me.
I mean, of course.
But as I go along, there were quite a few of them. So we did. And when we did the so-called founding members, I mean, people talk about it. They were not founding members. No, I'm sorry. But at that time, we paid $100 CDs or 100,000 or something. Then you became a member. And we listed everything. And after that, then after the pressure and movements and on most of the time, underground movements and whatever and the rest, then we found that Rawlins's hold on the nation was beginning to loosen. So we pushed and eventually agreed that we should become democratic. Now, in the process, then from there, from the Dankwa-Busia club, I shouldn't forget Freddie Ayim.
Oh, Ferdinand Ayim, yes.
Ayim, yeah.
But he was the younger one.
Jacob Chebelamte, and all of them. And so it was beginning to loosen. So we decided then to form this into a club. So we met every...
Tell me, was Kwame Pienim part of this?
Kwame Pienim, he was in jail.
Oh, at the time?
Yep. When we saw it. We set up and the working group which was preparing the manifesto and the constitution met in my house, the house that I built. I was the first to build in East Legon. No two ways about it.
No, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Because East Legon at the time was not an attractive place, you should know.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we used to meet there. And then once a fortnight, when we had a bigger crowd, we would then go to Mr. Kreku house. Kreku,
the one who passed not
who
too long ago.
on his son is the engineer Kreku. And of course, all these things I forget. Kufu and all of them were part of it.
Yeah.
We would go there and decide.
And please, for the records, the list that he gave, he's not trying to say it's an exhaustive list. So if he left somebody's name out, please don't start a war of he lives.
Thank you very much for being my advocate, by being my counsel. I just offhand immediately have to go.
It's fine. Of course, you didn't have to prepare for this.
Because I have forgotten even people like Professor Folsom, Bachelor Folsom University, the one who was really heading the manifesto group and all this. But as I remember them, I will put them in. So we got together and we did this. Then we decided we had to. I told you the story of how we came by the elephant. And
so first of all, the Dankwa-Busia club, how did it change into becoming the political party?
Because the Dankwa-Busia club, the core membership, the leadership of Dankwa-Busia were all people who were of the Matimahu group, of the UP group tradition. And so therefore they stayed, we stayed together. So when we knew that we were going to have an opportunity to bring back
political
exactly, party politics, then we decided to write a manifesto and a constitution and whatever and the rest. And
so how did you come by the name New Patriotic Party?
Yes, I'll come to that also. So when we did, Darocha said we should try and get a name which is close to PP, the Progress Party. And all of us were working on it. So we worked hard and then we put this together. And at the end of the day, we said everybody who paid 100 cedis, I think it was 100 cedis, you became a founding member. To Bachelor Fulton, Darocha, myself, all of us, those who paid. And we're really not more than 110. And we paid, and that was to help. Because I'll tell you later on that even if you had a cent, you had to record it and report it to the, at that time, to the military junta. And so you were asking about how...
The name MPP.
Yeah, but no. So we decided that we shall get as close to it as now. But before then, let me also say that we needed a symbol, we needed a logo, and then there were so many submissions. Eventually, we eliminated them. We were left with two, and we're in groups. You see, within the party, we had groups. Just as even presently, we do have groups. So the Adubahin group, Nana Akufo-Addo's group, Akufo-Addo was with the Adubahin group. I was with the Safo-Addo group. Kwabena Batel with the Safo-Addo group. IC with the Safo-Addo group. And so they brought Tikron Kwejina. One head is, I mean, two heads are better than one. And they put it together. And those of us from Safo-Addo's group brought the elephant. But they didn't want the elephant. Some of them didn't want the elephant because sometime back in history, Kwame Safo-Addo wanted to form a political party, and I think the elephant played a role there, so they didn't want it. But we did a lot of argument, and then it happened in my house. And so at the end of the day, I was chairing the meeting. I said, let us now decide. Let's vote.
Oh, you have to vote?
Yeah.
You started the democracy early.
Yeah, we said, let's vote. We voted, and the elephant, those of us supporting the elephant, won by one vote. One single vote.
Whew.
And so I wrote down that I ruled as the chairman that that's it. The Tikron Kwejina, we would shell.
I couldn't stand.
Yeah, so that's how we came by the elephant. Though we gave it to Jacob Ichebelamte and Freddie Ayim, your friend, to go and develop the sign. So when they did it, they brought all these colors. And the colors were chosen also because they were the most popular colors in various other things. They put a round circle on it. So when we met, some people said, but you have sort of stifled the elephant. You put him in a circle, and so the elephant has to break out, and then and that's when Jake and
Freddie
and his team and Freddie then did it, and that's why they have the two opened.
So there was no controversy on the voting.
Well, there was controversy. How do you know? There was controversy because they claimed that I sort of
manipulated the votes.
Yes, because there was a guy, Nyantechi, who was in London, but was part of it.
Not the GFA Nyantechi warning.
No, not GFA Nyantechi.
Yeah,
this one is a doctor.
Dr. Nyantechi.
Dr. Nyantechi.
He was very wealthy before, right?
He was indeed.
Yeah.
So he came to the meeting in my house. When we're having a meeting, he came there and participated in the meeting all through. So when we got to the point that I said we should vote, then he voted. And he voted for the elephant. So the elephant then beat the Dankwa-Busia by 1. And so the following day, Dr. Amakutufo came to my house and held my neck. And eventually I said, look, Kwame, you are in my house. And they all knew that I had some mafia friends. I did. I'm not too worried about it. I had some mafia friends and I'll kill you before you leave this place. All my friends in Italy, some of them were generals and mafias, all mafiosi. We need them from Sicily and Sardinia at that time, not now. And that's why you remember when we started, they arrested me and Jake with the Italians.
That's true.
Berlusconi's group, were arrested. And then,
that's true. Before we did. True. It was all over,
Yes, and it was bad. Huh?
So you adopted finally the elephant.
Anyway, so we adopted the elephant, and that now the rest is history. As far as the name is concerned, we said we will call ourselves National Patriotic Party. So then at the end will be PP. That's what we wanted, PP. So we went to Nana Akufo-Addo's father's hotel.
The Ringway Hotel.
Where is now headquarters of the
SG
Institute General. And we knew we were going to announce National Patriotic Party to the world. Then Darocha, yes. He hardly spoke, but he was quite autocratic.
Oh yes, I mean,
Darocha then, as chairman, as acting chairman, we were all acting at that time as chairman, just said, yeah, everybody's national, it's too much. So on the spur of the moment, he started up and said, so our party told the press, our party's New Patriotic Party. I said, no, Joe. They were always sitting all in the middle. Ajay Mbati sat on his right, I sat on his left. I said, no, PJ, so Jai. His New Patriotic Party.
That's it.
He hardly discussed it with anybody.
Yeah.
A few people he had mentioned to. And that's how we came by New NPP, New Patriotic Party, so that the PP would remember the previous PP of the Progress Party of the Busia's government. That's how the thing came.
Wow.
And then we started working. And then eventually we had to register the political party because the political party's law came in. And interesting thing that they made it so difficult for us that anybody who gave you more than 100 or 200, you have to record the name, how you got the money and that sort of thing. But we got round, and so we needed to have a Congress to eventually elect officers. We didn't have the money. Nobody had the money. So I had to fall on what I had brought from the UN because I got quite a sizable amount of money from them, from the pension fund of the UN. I didn't wait until I went on to pension. No, because I'm 55, but I wasn't 55, so I got all my money. So I remember Darocha saying, "I will find the money for the Congress." So Darocha then brought 20 million, and it wasn't enough. They needed another 20 million. So I then gave them another 20 million, and were able to hold the first Congress at Legon. And then,
which year was this?
That was 92.
Yeah.
And so then Darocha was acting chairman, was confirmed as chairman. Ajay Nwati was confirmed as general secretary, and I was confirmed as national treasurer. And then the rest. By that time, Kweshigan had joined us, and because Safwedu also brought him there, and a whole lot of other people. Then we did it, and from there, then it was all go. But most of the time, in fact, when we started the campaign, we just bought a couple of 6 rickety old vehicles, and that's what we used, campaigning all over. And then the group of young people came together, formed the Young Executive Club Forum. And some of them had some better cars, so we used them. I remember where we were with Koforidua, when we're going to have a rally, he is short. So nobody could see him on the roadside.
Very small.
And we saw one of the young men, I have to try and remember his name because I do. And we stopped. He had a car and he had an open top.
Open top, yeah.
So we stopped him. And I went there, I said, look, we need your car. They don't know, get down, we need that. So you get down. And they, rough. They go down and they will put something on the front seat so that I could stand in it and people could see him, you know. And it was very interesting. Then we went there and that's how. We never gave the car back to the boy. After a while, I think it was, anyway, I remember his name.
Yeah.
So, and then we started organizing. Then, because before then, using the Dankwa-Busia club that we had established in various districts to help us as the organization, and almost all of them took them, and that's how we got on. But quite obviously, they knew that if we voted, we would win, and the NDC had also been formed. Owusu-Agyeman, who left our camp to go there, he was there with them. And all of them knew that we would win. So Rawlings made life very, very difficult for us. And decided that we should do the elections first, the president. And then after that,
Parliament. 1 week after.
Parliamentary, yes.
Parliamentary, yeah.
And so when we did, we knew, and there was a lot of intimidation, what have you, and the rest.
Wow.
And when we did, he said he had won. But we believed sincerely that he did not win. And so, to cut the long story short, then we came back to headquarters. Meanwhile, I thought that if we didn't have a premises for holding meetings, should anything happen to us, the party, if you don't meet, you die. So I told them, let us buy a headquarters. Everybody was against it. So
this was in 92?
That was in 92, yeah.
Okay.
And I said, okay, I will do that. So my cousin, J.M. from Begro, was selling his car. So I got it. I paid a deposit and paid the money virtually for it. And then we got that as our headquarters.
This is in Kokomlemle.
Kokomlemle, this is the first one in Kokomlemle. So then I paid for it. About that time, Kwame Pielim was released from prison, after the amnesty before the election. So he came and helped us with 6 million cedis at that time. And then what I have paid, and then we paid off the...
So that's how you acquired the first head office.
That's how we acquired that. I paid for it.
I mean, the access to that place was so narrow. I was wondering...
Because we didn't have money. We didn't have any place.
So you changed when you got money?
Sorry?
You changed the headquarters when you got money?
No, we haven't really changed. What we have at Asylum now is nothing to write home about. we are now going to try and raise funds to build an iconic building which will be
You want to match the NDC boot for boot or do or die?
But they have built that, so we can also build. And then we would do that. So then we sort of then decided to come back. When we came back to headquarters, now some group was saying that we should boycott the elections. Another group was saying
after the presidential.
Yes, after the presidential, where we claimed that we have been cheated, where we knew we had been cheated. They said it's no use going because whatever you do, the people would do that. So in a lot of places, for example, we gave our support to, I think, P something. There was a group now became PNC or something. I've forgotten it. We gave our vote, but I know it in my constituency.
But generally, you boycotted
boycotted it. After that, we gave our vote, our support to Dankwa-Busia, for example, and then he won. But we then, amongst ourselves, were divided. A group, basically, now that his history we are really talking to, I must tell the truth.
Hold it here. We'll come back to this one. We'll just take a short break. When we come, I'd like you to hold on with the politics because we've now done the formation of the MPP.
Yes.
We'll get into how it was run in the various elections. But there's something more personal that I would like to get into before. So after the break, remember Sikelele Paints. Sikelele Paints. Now, he has something to do with it, and I'd like for him to tell us about it. But for now, we'll take a short break. You've been listening to Honorable Hackman Owusu-Agyeman, if you just joined us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Footprint. We are talking to Honorable Hackman Owusu-Agyeman, and it's getting very interesting. So, 92, he's told us about MPP's involvement in the elections, 92. I think it was the 1st of December or something like that. And then, at the time, presidential elections was not on the same ballot and the same day as parliamentary. They would have them 1 week apart. And so once the presidential elections were held, they knew that they were chopping last, but they also believed that it was fraudulent. And they took a decision, which he's telling us about. So how was the nature of your decision?
So, I mean, some group, the Aduwain group especially, said we should boycott the elections. Some of us also believe that we should go in for the parliamentary election because we had the support and we knew we could win. But maybe they said not under the second where the ballot box was solid wood and everything, where they have the machinery for manipulating the thing. So at the end of the day, majority decided that we should boycott the parliamentary elections and then try and do an analysis of what happens. And it was done under the chairmanship of Nana Akufo-Addo. So then we wrote as you said, the stolen verdict.
Stolen verdict, yes.
And then that is also history. So that was what it was at that time.
So the stolen verdict would kind of justify why you believe that the elections were fraudulent. Is that correct?
Yes, it did. And it tried to show that the verdict of the people had been stolen, so to speak, and that taken by Rawlings and his team. Of course, when they went to Parliament, there was no opposition, and there was only Hawa Yakubu, who was independent. He stood as independent.
So tell me, 30 years down the line, do you still believe that the elections 92 was stolen?
I'm even more convinced. It was stolen. Not with some.
But at the time, you guys were not going to certain places to campaign. You were just sitting in the urban areas.
And it was stolen. That is why we wrote the stolen verdict, and it's all documented there. But at the end of the day, what I thought was a mistake was the fact that we should have competed for the parliamentary.
There would have been more
election.
stealing then.
And I think we would have gotten a decent number. Because the following year when we came, at Front Shop, we got 61.
Yeah.
When we came, and I think we could.
That was 96, right?
At the end of the day, we had to. And the majority said, we were very democratic in everything that we did. Any other place, other people, we had already paid everything and registered and everything. We were going to vote. And so that was the story of the stolen verdict. And from there on, we decided to struggle for a reform of the electoral processes and what have you. So we started with an transparent ballot boxes, and eventually we had to get some hand thumb print, and then we got one of pictures, black and white, and these are evolving over time, and that's what it is. At that time, it was important, otherwise, and we stood our ground, and I think we were supported by a lot of the Western countries that if we have gone democratic, it should also be genuine, and that we shouldn't allow this thing to take place. And
so,
that's
Honorable
why.
Hackman, tell me, so when you came back, you had, let me just put it, you had resigned from the FAO, and at the time, by all standards, it was a high-paying job, the average Ghanaian won't resign from that. So there must have been something that kept you, generating revenue. Is that what pushed you into selling paints?
When I left the UN, I asked for my pension, that my contribution, the joint pension fund.
Yeah.
So my contribution plus the contribution of the organization, there was quite a lot of money, over $500,000 in those days. I'm told it's worth more than 50 million now. And I was prepared to put it at the disposal of the party. That's number one. Then number two, my friends in Italy decided they would give me some
The
tires.
mafia people?
Sorry?
The mafia people? Not the mafia, the
Not the
institution
mafia group,
itself, but your boys.
And so they decided that they would give me something to do. And then so I decided to sell the floor tiles and whatever. And then I was lucky enough to be introduced to Dulo, ICI. At that time, it was a huge multinational, ICI. It's now AstraZeneca. That one there. It was Astra. It was a big thing. They had the medical side and the pain side. The pain side they gave me, so I got it. And then...
So you got it through your friends in Italy?
No, that one is from UK.
Okay.
They're from UK, so I got them there to help us. And the name Sikelele comes out of the very, very popular song of the Southern Africa.
Nkosi
Sikelele, Africa. And Sikelele means blessings. You say, I will be blessed. So Sikelele came there. And then he expanded, and eventually we became the national distributors for Procter & Gamble, which is a huge organization.
Yeah.
And also the turnover was big.
Okay.
And everything.
So that explains it. Because you always had all these toothpaste and all these things in your house there. Palmolive and all these.
Pampers and all these things.
Yeah, I used to see Pampers too.
All of them.
I was wondering whether you were a nurse.
And then we gave a real competition
to Unilever.
To Unilever.
Yeah, that's
that time there was only Omo.
Yeah.
And so we brought in Ariel washing powder and all these things. And the NDC people said on Parliament, I was then in Parliament, that I had gotten to Parliament when he got to his peak, that we make it impossible for Honorable Hackman to operate. That they sabotage every strand of the day. I mean, at one point, Rawlings or that they shouldn't give me anything, because I had won some contract to build a paint factory in Efjasi in Koforidua, and Rawlings said no, and all these things went through, but we always saw it had been a lot of suffering. And then sometimes you come and audit, and when there was no need for any audit, but that one there, I was prepared to put everything at the disposal of the party. So the $250,000 that I brought, and I still have the documentation, really, I put it for the party. So like, as national treasurer, I was also quite powerful. Because he who pays the piper
calls the tune.
So that I was quite powerful, and then I made sure. And then we have Darocha, who was also there supporting the right thing to be done. And so we made sure that the little money that we have, we use it judiciously, so we did not run into problems. And that's why everybody then began to come in. And then the first round, when we went for the second elections, we got 61.
So tell me, so what kind of conversations went on? At which point did you agree to taking part in the next elections? Because, of course, you boycotted 92. So one would expect that, well, some things would have to change significantly before we take part. What were some of the conversations?
Yes, after Nanado's stolen verdict, we thought we have let the whole world know what was happening. But did it mean that we're chickening out? No. We had to fight more and fight for reforms led by the same group, Darocha, Jinboad, Safwedu, all these people, Nanado, myself, and all these people. We fought and fought really hard. And I must say that the Western nations also supported us.
Which ones, to be specific?
UK, Germany, Italy.
They were giving you money?
No, but they were giving money to the Electoral Commission, but was trying to say that, encouraging it, like when we're looking for transparent ballot boxes, the government said there was no money to buy transparent ballot boxes, so maybe France, I don't remember which country, France said, okay, we'll donate transparent ballot boxes. And when we're doing the thing for our thumbprints for the, we will help you. So they were putting in money into Electoral Commission so that these things could be done.
But they didn't physically give you money, as in the party?
No, I don't think, no, they didn't, because
they don't do that.
The rules at that time that had been put together by the Rawlins's group was such that you could not take money from elsewhere. So what they did, they gave us a lot of training, a lot of scholarships and all these things to go and do this. And so they wanted to establish an even playing field to that.
So they didn't allow you to take external funding?
No.
But they could take from Abacha?
Well, that is subsequently, and that's why I put the motion in Parliament. I moved the motion, which ended up in the fight in Parliament. Yes. And that's when I got to know. They wouldn't let us do it, but they did it. And so when I got it, I put a motion in Parliament, and they wouldn't allow Speaker Annan to admit the it went down. So for the first time in the history of Ghana, a written response was given to my motion. And then I said, no, I looked at it, I looked at the rules, and I thought there was so I said, okay, if I come by substantive motion, then it could not stop me. And we have a book which is almost like the Bible for Parliament MPs. What is it called again? I'll remember. Anyway, so I went and I said, no, we couldn't do what you are doing. And so we had information from within, from our intelligence sources, that money has been given, has been carried by a special plane, and from there straight to the castle and what have you. And so we moved this motion, and Annan, that way I really take off my hat for him, said, well, I said at one day, and this history too, I'm not hiding anything. One day he told me at 5 a.m., the topmost rank, about 7 of them, NDC gurus, came to him and said, don't allow that motion to be debated. And he said, I stopped him, I issued a statement, and the man has come now with a substantive motion, and I can't stop it. He said, I am a judge. I'm not a politician, I'm a judge. As a judge, it means that you have given judgment, and the man says, I want to appeal. Say, I won't allow you to appeal. So, I mean, that one he did very well. And then he says, we come. So I came, but he said, he comes and he says, you shouldn't touch on this, you shouldn't touch on that, you speak only. So then I said, okay. And then I asked Nana Akufo-Addo to second my motion. Because, he has a good read with English. So I said, I moved the motion, and then I asked Nana Akufo-Addo to support the motion. So to second the motion. So when I had put the motion that he took, and my concern was that it has brought the presidency into disrepute. I mean, when you take money from other people and you don't accept it, it's bribe or assistant to a matter. So when I finished, I had only 2 pages, but it took me over 2 hours to read them, because that day every senior member of NDC was there, all ministers, those were MPs, were not MPs, were there. It was fantastic. I think it was 19.
This was 97.
98 or something.
Ending 97, that took us into 98.
98, December.
Yeah. December
and
97,
then
98, yeah.
They came. So Nana Akufo-Addo then, when I finished, Nana Akufo-Addo was now seconding the motion. And as was seconding the motion, the way he was going, everybody, at least in the foyer, they knew that we had a good point. So this guy, Champon, from the other side, from NDC side, over the right, came in, and the backbenchers were always they were cheering us on and all. So after Kufuor was speaking, they came and gave a blow to another guy called a Champon, who was an MP from Bekwai. Oh. And he also hit him back. So there was a scuffle. And eventually, we managed to stop it. And I remember
he hit Nana Akufo-Addo when he was speaking?
Sorry, Nana Akufo-Addo was speaking. We were in the front bench.
Yeah.
But this happened in the back.
Oh, okay.
So then a champion from NDC hit a champion from MPP.
Oh, okay.
So all these things were a whole lot of confusion.
Yeah.
When things settled, and said, I got up. Since I was moving, I said, Mr. Speaker, what's happening here? This is all this? And he says, I did not see anything. I said, Mr. Speaker, I said, Mr. Speaker, I can live with blindness. That willful blindness, I cannot live with. I remember very well. And so that was really, so Nanadu could not finish his seconding
the motion.
And then it was
let me just
very interesting.
Back a bit. So at this point, everything you're saying now is for the 96, the parliament that started early 97, after the 96 elections.
Yes.
Okay, so you've been listening and watching Honorable Hackman.
Very interesting.
Honorable Hackman Owusu-Agyeman telling us his stories and taking us through the path. I am sure you have learned something. We will end this episode now, and there will be a continuation of our conversation with Honorable Hackman Owusu-Agyeman. But for now, thank you for watching and listening, and this has been FootPrints. My name is Samuel Atamensa.